Hello and welcome to this new podcast. And thank you for taking time and joining me. Uh, Without much ado, I would want to get to the topic. I want to talk to you about a topic called death. And my first question to almost everyone is this only: What are your thoughts on death per se? When somebody utters the word death, or if you find out about death, or your personal experience or anything at all in terms of your experience with death, so to speak.
Okay. So um, I'll keep it simple. I just see death. I imagine death as a color, and I see it as the color white, and it just feels like the state of peacefulness. That's how it should be imagined. Like,
Okay.
there is a certain morbidity or there is this fear associated with death, but I'm one of those few people like who thinks that, death is liberating. It's like an ultimate uh, freedom from everything. And for me, it's always been, of course, no matter how painful it is to lose a loved one, but when you imagine death, it just brings up the color white in just feels like the ultimate release from everything.
Okay. So, sorry, I'll get into pop psychology immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So, does it mean that life is such a drudgery that you imagine that the only ultimate peace to be found is at the end of it? Is that what your thought process is?
Uh, um, yeah, it's, I mean, not really, because see, how I look at it as is that, we are all journeying through life. We are getting somewhere. And the ultimate destination is death. Because that's how, it's like a given. When you're born, you're constantly racing through life. You're heading somewhere. You're moving forward, obviously. You're not standing still in time. So the ultimate goal is to, attain that, that level where you're liberated from the worldly affairs. So that's why I look at it like a liberation. It's not that, life is all that bad or, it weighs you down or it's difficult to live and all those things. It's not about that. It's about um, the journey and where it is going.
Hmm.
That's how I look at it.
Okay. So, if I understand correctly, it's like um, as a kid, I used to have this thought that whenever one fell down or anything like that happened, that Mother Earth will take care of it.
Hmm.
So there is no need to worry about any such thing that this has happened or that has happened, because every time you have a fall or something bad happens, you scrape your knee. I'm talking about when I was almost a kid.
Right.
There was always this kinship with the grandness of Mother Earth in all
Hmm.
its forms, whether be it forests or
Hmm.
land or grass or
Hmm.
so. So in that sense, and as I grew up, the thought of gravity, that all of it brings us down to this point.
Hmm.
So is that what you mean by that there is a oneness in that all of us have a certain destination which is a peace point of sorts, um, and we are all actually moving there whether we know it or not.
Hmm. It's actually a beautiful way to put it because I haven't really thought about death collectively for many people. When you asked me about death, I was imagining it from one standpoint view, that is death for
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
But now that you put it that way, it seems like, yeah, it's like a collective state of peace for a lot of people going through that journey and ultimately arriving at death. Yeah, I agree with you.
Hmm. So my question is now a little more quote unquote superficial, but
Hmm.
not really superficial, because the pain is real and the grief is not really easily dealt with because of the sense of uh, quote unquote again permanent loss.
Hmm.
Um, so how do you deal with emotions like those? When have they happened to you? One, and when they've happened, what is it that you tell yourself? What is the mind state that brings you to that peace point of acceptance, if you accept?
Uh, Certainly, I have gone through, I have faced permanent losses of dear ones in my life, and
Hmm.
certainly I have been through a situation where I haven't, where I have even experienced the death of somebody who was not very close to me, but found myself mourning over it. And
Oh,
whereas when it was my own loved one, I didn't experience that much of a mourning, but it was like more of a, okay, I need to bring this situation under control and I need to protect my kin. Everybody who's facing this, I need to step up and I need to protect their minds and their hearts. So I think I'm one of those people who doesn't sit down to think what I really want or what acceptance is for me. It is something that I expect myself to deal with. That I'll be like, हाँ मैं तो कर लूंगी, मैं कर लूंगी, बाकियों का क्या? So I have that protective streak in me, and there was this one time. I don't know if I'm going off in a tangent.
no,
You can
please.
stop me if I am. There was this one time when my mother had was visiting her native place, and it was just me and my father over here, and there was a death in our apartment where we live, a few floors above us, and
Hmm.
the family was really close to our family, but I particularly wasn't very close to them.
Hmm.
So I think it was one of the first times I came face to face with a person laying there wrapped in white. And at that point I was 22,
Hmm.
21, 22.
Okay.
And I recall it very nicely. I was not at all close to these people, and I just walked into the room, and I saw the body, the person,
Hmm.
and this sense of overwhelming emotion just, clouded everything, and I erupted and I started bawling like a baby in front of everybody, and everybody was wondering who is this girl, and even the relatives of the person who had passed away, who were not even wailing like that, they were wondering who is this girl. So it was actually, when I think back, it's a bit, it must have been a shock for them thinking who is this person, but for me, I was just, uncontrollably sobbing. So I don't know what that was, but at the same time, when I faced it in my family, when I faced it, it was more of a, I was like, okay, I'll deal with this, but I need to protect everybody. So I don't know why that is.
Okay, okay. There are many questions running in my head, so I was hoping that you would stop. So, first question, immediate question is, when you cried, what was it? Fear at facing death for the first time at such close quarters? Have you studied yourself in during that time or later about what could have transpired inside you?
Yeah, I have actually. I have pondered over that situation because I was confused why I was feeling like that.
Hmm.
I felt that I felt sad for the wife of that person who had passed away.
Okay.
I felt immense pain because I just couldn't imagine how she could live without the one person that she spent her entire life with, that she shared her bed with, that she went everywhere with. And they were a very small family, just one child.
No.
And they were very much in love with each other, the parents, and the couple. And it just overcame me. Like, I just felt that, how can she go through it? And that, I guess, was the reason why I broke down.
Okay. Um, the second question is regarding. Um, I want to know the mind state that you have, which was an earlier question, but I'll specify it in a better manner so that you can answer it for us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, You said there is this protective streak that arises in you that I have to look after my kin, I have to look after my family or people who are grieving at this point of time. I'll take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you think you will take care of yourself? I would want you to think a bit and tell me the mind state, because I'm hoping that people who hear will try and emulate or understand how to
Yeah.
be peaceful in a challenging situation like the death of a loved one, if you can.
Well, I can try, but I
Yeah,
think it's a very internal process. It's
yeah.
just been like that with me, and I guess it's to do more about it's to do with more about um, being um, being I wouldn't say detached, but being more open to the fact that okay, we can't do anything about it now. The worst has happened. There is no way we can control or rewind or do anything to fix this. So now let's move forward from here. So that's how I function, and it just works that way for me.
Hmm.
It's like maximum the worst has happened, and there is no control over that. Like, we cannot do anything about it, we cannot undo it, but to accept it. And that's my process. That's how I look at most things.
Okay,
That हो गया ना अभी बस और क्या.
ठीक है. तो एक interesting question है. I will give you a bit of a background before I ask you the question. There was a fiction novel I had read many years back, and that guy used to get into. It was like a World War II based um, story, and that guy used to take missions which could be very, very surely termed suicidal,
Oh,
because it's just no way that you can get into a mission like that and come out alive. And he went into that again and again and came out alive. And he asked once, how do you do this? He says, because I don't care.
right.
And it has stuck to my head. Like, it's been one of the major influences in the fiction novels that I have read in my own upbringing about how I see life.
Mhm.
So my question to you now is, uh, the way you described is exactly to a larger extent how I see it as well.
Mhm.
So my question is, with this kind of mindset and now not related to death, other things in life, there are challenges, relationship challenges, job challenges, monetary challenges,
Mhm.
anything, business, anything, social challenges, any
Right.
challenges that come in life, sometimes they are not as critical as death, but fairly problematic, fairly difficult to deal with, fairly impossible to understand. All kinds of helplessness and hopelessness is there in the situation. So, have you had situations of different kinds like those as well at any point of time? And this kind of mindset that you spoke of, that the
Mhm.
finality of what is and your acceptance of, I I call it in this manner because death से ज्यादा final कुछ है ही नहीं.
हाँ,
मतलब वो क्लियर है कि इसके बाद कुछ नहीं हो सकता, बाकी सबका कुछ ना कुछ तो हो सकता है.
हो सकता है. That's right.
But इधर तो potential for any kind of changing the situation or changing the narrative is not possible.
Right.
This part is definitely cut off. It's like a branch breaking from a tree. You can't break it. मतलब you can't do anything about it. So my question to you is, has it influenced your life, this kind of behavior, and how has it influenced your life, in a good way, in a bad way?
Um, Definitely it has. And now that you ask me about specifics, I particularly recall this incident, um, which were happening around my final year exams. I
Okay.
was, I was studying, and it was like a 4.5 year course, and I was in my final year.
Hmm.
And I had been like a straight high scorer throughout, like in my class, first, second, third year. I was first in my class. So there was
Hmm.
this final year thing, and it was like a decider that, whether my streak would be broken or, wouldn't be broken or something like that. And I wasn't very proud of being, the top scorer in the class, but there was this general talk going on that, will her streak be broken or not? And incidentally, what happened is, I depended on public transport. I depended on local trains to travel um, to my
Hmm.
college, and my
Hmm.
exam center was in a little bit of a far off destination. I would have to, at least go through multiple lines of commute.
Hmm.
So that particular day, I recall that, my exam was at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I had to be there, and I left early, but there was some issue with the trains, and the train services from where I stay were suspended. And that day was a taxi strike. So long
Oh.
story short, by the time I reached the next suburb from where I had to board my train, the line, it was like a stampede going on at the station. So it was like a do or die situation, and I remember having this um, big argument with my father on the station, saying that I don't care, exam fail हुआ तो हुआ, 6 महीने गए तो गए, I don't care. I'm not going to get in from the wrong side of the train. And we were literally fighting like cats and dogs in front of everybody. And he's telling me, no, you get down at the track. I'm going to make you climb into the train. You are going to the exam hall by hook or by crook. You are not missing this exam.
Hmm.
So even at that point, like it was my university exam, first day of my university exam, knowing that I would have a drop if I don't attend the exam of 6 months, I was like still okay with it. I was like, it's okay. It's not worth, risking your life and my life, or, disappointing a million others just for a stupid exam. So I guess I have applied the exact same principle to multiple situations in my life.
So, for our listeners also, and for my curiosity also, did you top or not?
Oh, yeah, I did. I did. I reached the exam hall half an hour late. That was another adventure story. I would love to tell you about it.
Yeah,
Uh, it was amazing, but that was quite an experience.
yeah. We will chat about that once we are done with the
Yeah, for
recording
sure.
bit. Um, but I like your clarity of thought about letting go of something that should have been precious to you.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, now just to play the devil's advocate, what if I were to simply say that um, you do not uh, value things enough to be optimistic about them? If somebody were to say this,
Hmm.
we just had a chat before the recording went on, and I told
Right.
you about this person who says that I keep on grieving somebody who's gone, and the reason is that they will enjoy my grieving over them.
Hmm.
Now, one cannot stop anybody from thinking, although personally I do not subscribe to that point of view. So,
Hmm.
my question to you is, what if I were to say that why are you not optimistic? Why do you have to think that there is such a finality to things? Things can change. We can fight
Hmm.
and change things.
Hmm.
Why be so fatalistic about it? Perhaps.
Hmm.
What would your answer to that be?
Um, I actually, want to step up and say that, I would disagree about me being not optimistic,
Oh.
because, there is a thin line we need to draw between being optimistic and being infectiously optimistic. And that's where we blur the possibility of practicality. Okay,
Hmm.
so optimism is good, where the rational applies, and logically thinking that this is possible. But beyond that, I feel that it is just this sense of, I wouldn't say delusion, but it's this sense of blurring reality, and expecting something about that. Of course, when you're really hopeful, and when there are situations where you hope, okay, I wish a miracle happens and stuff like that. Of course, you are subject to, feel that. I do feel that. But I guess I value having the situation at hand in control more than depending on that hope.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is very interesting because it enlightens us about the workings of a mind when you are clear. So, if I were to ask a fan kind of question, how come you have a mind that is so clear with at such a young age?
Mhm.
Um, is there any particular life experience? Is there any particular life experiences or talks or friendships or what is responsible for? How have you developed this way of thinking?
Mm, I think it was because I had to grow up very fast, like in the sense that um, I had this very strong dependency need, and I was very, very dependent on my sister, my older sibling, and like I literally tailed around her for everything. And when I was about 12 or 13 years of age, she left the country to move
Hmm.
abroad. And
Hmm.
that was a big blow to me because I was in denial the whole time. I was like, tu ja, I'll get all my freedom and stuff like that. But when the day came, I had this, I cried and I was very upset and I was going through those motions for like a few days. But I guess when she went away, suddenly I became this singular person, this person who no longer had an older person to look up to or follow around. And it was like, this sudden gush of a realization and responsibility and being on my own and fending for myself. Um, and I was bullied a lot when I was a kid. And I guess that's why I depended on her um, to support me. And when she left, I realized that I'm on my own. Now I have to fight my own battles. So I guess that early sense of realization and that insight, that awareness led to me being where I am right now in terms of having clarity in my thoughts.
There was no negativity about the fact that you had to grow up.
Uh, I did blame her sometimes earlier, but that was for totally different reasons. I blamed her because she fell out of touch for the longest period from me, and we were like really close. So she, I don't know what she was going through, but there was a phase where she was not around at all, even for communication over the phone. So there was a phase where, when I was going through my teenage, my puberty and stuff, I would blame her that tu nahi thi, I had to see all this alone. But now when I think back, I just feel like, that was just a phase and I just went it out and I got over it. But I don't hold on to any such thought like that. There's no negative aspect to it at all. I
Hmm.
feel, in fact, it has made me a stronger person having had to
Yeah.
go through that at an early age.
Yes. Although this part has gone off topic, I would think, but it is very interesting to understand your perspective on so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. If I were to, there's no need to sum up anything really, but in your case, there is a thought that comes to me that in the sense of uh, your acceptance of things made you responsible, and once you are responsible, then even a matter like death is just one more event that has to be seen. And then, of course, what you described it as white or whatever is an add-on thing, which in somebody else's case with no experience could become a fantasy thing, just to like a fairy tale-ish ending to the
Right.
entire thing. But in your case, it doesn't seem so because you have other practical considerations that you've taken care of
Mm-hmm.
in your mind. I hope that this chat helps people understand the ongoings of One More Mind and one more talk on that. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you very much. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Mhm.
Bye.
It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely. Bye.